Yeah.
And we made it again.
We made it.
This time for real. Our last time was a test, it turned out.
Yep. We're here.
Happy Monday and welcome back to another episode, exciting episode of Get Found.
And be seen. I pointed in the right direction. Perfect.
It depends which screen you're looking at, I tell you. We
Oh,
did
yeah.
the Brady Bunch thing. That's what's...
Right?
Oh,
It's
boy.
great to be here.
Summer's starting. Weather's nice. Having a good time.
Having a good time. That's right,
Look,
Monty.
Today, and the title was getting long. So, you know, it said something about niche versus specialization versus ideal client strategies. But really, it's niche versus specialization versus target audience versus ideal client. It's a four-person bout, four contenders.
Well, I tell you, I got to get closer for this one. I tell you. Well, yeah, this is a cool one, Monty. I look forward to diving into this one.
Well, I hear it all the time. I hear people talk about, well, maybe not all the time. I've heard many times. There are times when I hear somebody say, "Oh, I should niche down more. Oh, I don't understand niching. Oh, I don't want to niche down because I'm missing out on people." And then there's the specialization strategy where you're not targeting people, you're selling your specialization, your uniqueness. You know, there's the target audience, which then people say, well, that's niching down, but there's nuances in there.
That's the key right there. Nuances. You know, and that's how life is. Things aren't always so black and white, this or that. They're the nuances. And if you don't pay attention to the nuances, the details, you can get lost in the sauce. I haven't said that in a while. Lost in the sauce.
Sounded smooth.
Lost in, you ever hear that? Lost in the sauce.
I may have, but you've brought it back to life.
There it is.
There it is.
So, Monty, question: how should a solopreneur begin identifying their target audience?
Or their whatever strategy they're going to be using. Right. Well, let's take a look at that, because I think it's a little situational. I think we'll just drop the thought right at the very beginning of, whoa, maybe there's not one of these tactics that's the best tactic, even for one type of business or one type of person necessarily.
Right.
As we evolve, as our businesses evolve, as society evolves, as technology evolves, we need to be capable of pivoting. And so potentially a combination or shifting from some of these strategies is advisable. But let's look at all of them to start with. It's not necessarily that you need to niche down, but you do need to tailor your message. So even if you're not going to niche down, you're going to be specializing your thing. When you're talking to people, you will resonate more talking to individuals than you do talking to giant groups of people. Of course, unless the giant group of people are all the exact same type of people. That's a little rare, but you can gather them together.
Yeah. But totally rare.
Let's say you did have a group of all the same people, then you would want to talk to them in the best way possible, the best communication method possible for that particular group. It's when the group is a diverse group and you're trying to use multiple methods or multiple ideas. And we'll get to that here in a minute. About multiple ideas, or actually the opposite of. But the crowd of people, if you try and go with several ideas, then some of them might resonate with one or two of the ideas, and a few of them might be all three, and a few of them might not resonate with any of them or just one of them. And
Right.
resonation level is going to be highly different. Since it's going to be highly different, one strategy to look at is, rather than trying to cover as many of them mediocre, instead of being jack of all trade, we can zero in and really touch base on one that will resonate a big spike above the rest.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean you're not going to resonate with anyone else. You'll still have different levels for those, but you're going to have, and maybe some of those might be lower, but you're going to have the one result that's definitely much higher. Then you can pivot and target one of the other ones. So the big spike might come down on this one, but some other area would spike up. And it's these spikes of resonation, of understanding. He's talking to me, or that's exactly like me. That's where you'll find more of that. So that's what we're talking about. Ideal clients are just people.
Right.
So we're talking to people, and the best way to talk to somebody in communications is one big idea at a time.
Right.
And there's that. If you try to do many big ideas, not only will you be potentially, oh, I don't resonate with that one, but then the one they did resonate with, now you've detracted because you've taken their attention to the next thing, which, oh, now they don't resonate with that, or they don't resonate with that as much.
Right. Right. I like when you said the big idea too. That's a big deal. I apply that even when I'm doing public speaking. It's like the way I look at it is there are common big ideas, and you tackle the ones that are most important. And the hope is that would resonate with the group that you want to reach. And that's going to touch other people as well, potentially at some point in their journey, in the customer's journey. But if you hit that big idea, or those 2 or 3 big ideas, or one, you have more of a shot at making the impact that you like to make. That's the way I view it.
I like that. Let's make sure we wrap back around at the end. I did the big idea. It's the thumb. We're going to wrap back around why I did that, and it ties into public speaking and confidence, and an ideal client avatar, or communicating with one. So we're talking about one avatar, one big idea, one avatar, one ideal client. So now we've talked about an audience, a target audience that has multiple ideal clients in it. All of them fit under the umbrella, but each one has their uniqueness. Each one has their own priority levels of pains and objections and goals and aspirations.
I dig.
And gotta look at my notes. I got so much going on. So I have an example. Let's say you're applying for a job. Applying for a job is niche specialization. This is a position. I need to specialize to fit that position specifically. Whereas when you're offering your services, that's a specialization. This is what I do. I do these things and I can offer it to you. So there's the big difference between niching and specialization. Is I'm niching into this is a specific thing, and specialization is I'm offering my thing.
Yeah.
So if you're applying for multiple roles, it's talking to different ideal clients. Ideal clients, I say, the ideal client being the hiring manager.
Yeah.
So some people might be confused. Ideal client, that means that's who you're selling to. Well, yeah, when you're applying for a job, you're selling yourself. You're selling your skills.
Yeah.
And if you're offering to solve a problem, ease a pain, or save time on a process, that's your specialization. That's where you could go into the same company that is hiring for a specific position, and you could tell them, this is what I do. I'm not trying to fit that position. here's what I can do for you. Here's the results I can offer. And here's how we can get there. And suddenly you're not applying for a position. You're not niching down to that special thing. You are offering your services saying, I can help you do these things. And this is how I can do it.
Right.
So which one's better? Ooh, situation. Do you want the job, or are you trying to be hired on as a third party?
Right. You can see the nuance though.
Yeah. Yeah. There and hiring is just one aspect of the nuance. We have, if you're selling physical products, if you're selling services, if you're selling local service-based services or online services. So there's a lot of different variables involved, and those create the nuances. I like that.
That's a cool analogy. That's a really cool analogy. I think that's one of those things where you got to keep. That's a message that needs to keep carrying over as time goes on, because that's one of those things that's not clearly defined in general all across the board. If that makes sense. It just needs it. There needs to be more dialogue about it, in my opinion.
It's the comparison dialogue that I'm interested in here, particularly, and that's because all the other dialogue is about this is the best. This is the best.
Exactly.
And so it's like, well, I deploy all of them depending on the situation.
And I love how you said it's situational. That was dead on.
So many things are communication styles, which here's communication style goes along with the whole topic too. So
yeah.
And then communication style, let's back up a little bit. You need to line up you and your avatar or your audience or your specialization, because the specialization is coming from you. So there's this strategy that actually we're going to be lining up more, not here. That's in my book. I call that the invisible strategy, but that's later on. Here we're going to talk about lining up basically just the client, and then you just kind of have to keep in mind that you are plugged into this. It's not all about the client. That's a whole other topic, a mistake of it's the client's always right, the customer's always right, that sort of thing. It's always focused on the client. Oh, listen to that, the phone's ringing. I didn't put it on silent. So we're going to map it out. The ideal client map. I created that quite some time ago. I don't even know why I still call it the ideal client map, because it maps out so many other things, which we'll get to here with the confidence in public speaking. But it still stems to knowing, who am I talking to? Whether it's an ideal client or the hiring manager or a group of people in an audience, who am I talking to? So when mapping it out, I created an extensive map before, and I've narrowed that down. I have the mini map. And of course, we're in this podcast. I'm not going to demonstrate the map, but we're going to go through it. And we're going to go through it on the mobile map that starts with the big idea.
I see it.
And let me back up first, though. When you're public speaking, Carl, do you have problems sometimes remembering what you were going to be talking about, or you go off track, something comes up and it's really exciting for a minute, and then you go off track, and then you're like, oh, what was I talking about? Where was I at?
That can happen sometimes.
Yeah, I've got to check my messages here. I got to make sure my mom's okay. That's what I got to do.
Do what you got to do.
And that's good to know. My mom's internet's been turned off.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so, oh my gosh, I went off track. Where was I? Oh, wait. Big idea. That's right. I've got a map I've got a mobile map and it's right here in my hand. So I'm speaking, I went off track. Oh my gosh, I needed something to get back. I need a prop, I need something. But sometimes having a piece of paper or having something to remind you is not convenient or not possible.
Right.
Or it makes you less confident to have to be looking at it. Maybe you don't want to be looking off screen. But here's my map. It's right here.
Right.
I got it all the time.
Tech could go out too.
Now, unless if you're not of one of the masses with 5 digits on your individual hand, and there are some people out there that have a different number of digits for a variety of reasons, you'll need to adapt. But here's the concept. A big idea. I'm going to be talking to somebody. I'm going to want to stick to one big idea. Now, what am I going to talk about in this big idea? Well, they're probably needing to get a result. So the idea is about a result. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm starting to go off track. Let's just go right onto the map. There is a problem. They have a problem of some sort.
Right.
With whatever the big idea that you're talking about. And if they have a problem, it's probably got a pain attached to the problem.
Yep.
So the pain comes from the problem, which is attached to the big idea.
Right.
Which leads to a question. Some kind of question, which usually has to do with how do I get rid of the pain? How do I solve the problem? How do I get the big idea? And then a great thing to always have on hand to talk about is, well, if I talk about these things, what are they going to say? Yeah, but. The little thing over here, the yeah, but.
Yeah, but. Yep.
It doesn't matter if you can answer my question or solve my pain or solve the problem, ease the pain, solve the problem. I'll never be able to get to here in your journey that you are trying to tell me about communication-wise because I have an objection. There's some false belief. There's some kind of thing out there. It's not my fault. Typically, it's their fault over there. Or maybe it's over there. But somebody else. It's not my fault that I can't get what I want. Now I have this emotional track. All I got to do is plug this in before I go speak someplace and say, oh, I'm going to be speaking about an ideal client. Ooh, the problem is people don't know what exactly an ideal client is, or they think that they don't want to niche down. And so therefore, they're trying to make a message and they're not resonating as much as they think they should. So how can they possibly resonate with their target audience, resonate with their customers on a higher level so they can make more sales? Well, it doesn't really matter because there's so much noise out there that you're not being heard anyway.
Yeah. I like that's good.
There's the mobile map for you. Take it with you. Preload it so that if you're going to be speaking about anything, you've got it down there. I mean, you could even cheat and write little notes on your fingers and stuff if you wanted to just make sure you're doing this. Oh yeah, I didn't do that. I didn't do that, but you could. You could.
You sure can. Man, you're going old school, but Monty, I tell you, it's old school, but it's principle centered. That's what I think. I love that, the analogy. And I know you mentioned it before too, but it was in another context, I guess I'd say. I love it. I think that's great.
Yeah, that carries
technology
through.
can go out too.
That's why I almost don't want to call it the ideal client map anymore, because here's the right there. That's what you plug into AI copy generation tools of any kind, ChatGPT or whoever. You plug in those things. I want to talk about this big idea. I want to talk about the problem with getting the big idea, this problem.
Mm-hmm.
Here, let's dive in a little bit. There's many problems. There's many pains. There's many questions. There's probably more than one objection. And so the point here is let's line them up on track. Let's really resonate. Let's make sure that we're talking about a problem associated with the big idea, with the result that they can't get, or the result that they're struggling so hard to get.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make sure the pain revolves around the problem of getting there. And let's make sure we tie the question into something here. And now we've built up. The other strategy is talking about the 3 top things. Do you feel this pain and that pain and the other pain? And I'm suggesting, instead of going with that, you're saying, hey, here's the one pain. I notice it's this finger. That's the pain finger.
Mm-hmm.
Went off track there. But you want to make sure that problem, pain, question, and objection, if possible. Sometimes the objection isn't necessarily like the topic,
Right.
but sometimes it is supportive. Not sometimes. It needs to be supportive. And that's the recipe for really resonating and really communicating a point, a big idea, and really, really drilling down on it.
Right. And that's great to talk about too, because it's like sometimes it's easy to miss, and you're gonna, with our desires to give, what we want to make sure we nail down what we want to give and offer to people. That is, we can miss it by giving too much and not being able to drill down and hit that point. You know what I mean? And so it's like, one question I have too is, how do you measure and balance? Because you're really good at that, Monty, being able to narrow in and focus.
Well, I put the effort into doing that. And I discovered this mapping system for me that helps me do that, because I'm human. Those squirreling things, and I get excited, so I want to talk about all the different aspects,
right?
And I forget myself sometimes that I understand them at a deeper level already. If that's the case, if I'm discussing it with someone else who's at the same level than me, situationally, we need to speak differently. But if I'm talking to someone, I'm trying to help them along or trying to give them information based on my viewpoint, then that needs to be situational. And yeah, I don't think I can go any more than that.
That's good. No, that's great, because I think that's, for someone like me, that's great to hear, because it helps me to think about that. And as I think critically about it, I'm like, okay, how can I one thing I think about, and I've heard, there's a guy named Jim Quick. He's a brain coach. He talks about is your questions are your answers. So even what you mentioned, and continually asking myself that questions around that particular thing, it helps me to dive and get my question answered. You know what I mean? Or questions answered, if that makes sense. But it's so important to be able to get that focus. And I think for every solopreneur to be on that journey, to be able to get to that place. And it's not easy. It's easy to miss too.
Speaking of easy to miss, the comments weren't over in my site, and Vicky came in. She's gone now already, but I did want to say, hey, good to see you too, Vicky.
Hey, Vicky.
Thanks for joining the show earlier. She stuck around for a while. I saw someone was watching, and then I was like, hey, wait a second. There's a little heart there.
Cool.
So then I went and looked, and there we go.
Thanks for joining.
Tech for you. That's all right. But wrapping that back around, to finish up the thought, the mobile map, AI content generation. So now we have all the recipe for what to tell the AI chatbot or whatever, even if it's not AI. If you had a human assistant, this is what I want you to write about. This thing, this thing, this thing, this thing. It's all lined up. And then we'll write a different thing, and we'll use this other pain point and its problem and its question and some other objection. You could even, some of these might overlap some too. A pain point might be a pain point for more than one problem.
Right.
You know, or a problem might have more than one pain point. Maybe we have that a confused mind doesn't buy. Well, take that concept into communication, and a confused mind doesn't understand.
Right.
That seems a little redundant, but the thought there continues with, I didn't finish digesting this first portion, and now you're moving on to something else.
Right.
So you're distracting them away. You're not letting them have the full flavor.
Right. Right. And of course, as you mentioned, that would be situational too.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, there's the valid strategy. If you just lay on the pains, you know, do you find yourself laying awake at night? Do you have the cold sweats? Do you do this thing and you get the twitch in the eye? You know, it's like, yeah, okay. You know, so that's not saying that that's not a good tactic.
Yeah.
It's just a different one.
It's different. Yeah.
But there again, knowing yourself and your audience, knowing your niche, knowing your specialization, knowing your target audience in general, and knowing your ideal client. Because who actually is the ideal client? There's a great definition to put out there. It's like, well, an ideal client doesn't mean the only person that you are catering to or providing service for or selling to or whatever. It just it's one of the top people that you would like to have more of. Out of all these people that I know and serve and have purchased something from me, my ideal client, if I could get 100 more of those ones.
Yeah. That, I love the way you put that, Monty. That was, I've never heard it like that. You know, as far as the top people that you want to serve. But like, it's because there are people who want to make it, they just want to make an impact. You want to make money, you want to build your business. But hey, I want to make impact to these people, but here are the top people I want to serve. And for those who are, you know, leaders, some people who are leaders, or they may be part of an organization or whatever, that's their mindset. And sometimes what we hear sometimes across the internet, it kind of takes, I even put myself in that category sometimes. I'm an artist and an entrepreneur, but I put myself in that category sometimes. And sometimes I can feel like I'm on the outskirts because this is what's always pounced. This is the information. This is what's always spoken online. And so I love your point of view with that.
I appreciate that. I try to have a different point of view and spark that critical thinking. I like it when you say that.
Yeah.
That is one of my goals, is to get people to apply some more critical thinking to things in a way that they haven't seen.
Right. And so, because I know for me, one of the things I value is that the impact I want to make is not just for the moment, but a lot of things sometimes that go out is just for the moment. And I know things change, and I get it, and I get that's part of the game, so to speak. But also there's that long term. What kind of value do you want to leave? And do you want your stuff make an impact, or some things, and this is another topic. I don't want me to get off topic. But what we put out there is so important. And if we're not careful, what we do is very influential, and people are very impressionable. So if we leave the wrong impression and we think this is the only way to do something, there are a lot of people that's going to be impacted in a negative way. That's just my point. So that's why I really valued what you said.
Well, to carry that one step further, the ideal client, the one that you would like to have 100 more of, or 1,000 more of, or whatever, the ultimate idea there would be, well, what if you had so many of those ideal clients that's as many as you could handle? That's as many as you wanted. Now, some people don't have a number for that. I want to influence the world. Well, okay, this strategy is not for you. But there's the concept of, well, if I'm going to be spending X number of hours a day running my business, not only do I want to make as much money as I can, I want to help as many people as I can. And by resonating and having an ideal client, that goes hand in hand. You don't have to try and figure out, how do I make the most profit from this? You don't have to try and figure out, how do I reach more people? When you can really hone in on, well, I would just like to reach more of these people.
Right.
And therefore, I can help them more. They're going to appreciate it more. And all of that more spills right on over into the profit and business side.
Right.
And I like to say that because then you don't need to focus on that side of it. And there's the key to not being salesy. So the ideal client can help you not be salesy. If that's your concern of sounding too pushy or sounding like you're trying to sell something to somebody. Like, well, your ideal client, you don't need to sell to, because they want to buy.
Right.
So that eliminates that. Ta-da!
I dig it. I dig it, man.
So there's keep it simple. There's that keep it simple. The ideal client is just to help you hone in on communication. It's not meant to necessarily change your business into only helping a specific type of person. It's just to help your messaging really resonate with each type of person.
Love that. And it's funny, it's what you said too, as far as I'm not trying to help the whole world. There's some people in that category who aren't able to define it how you defined it, but that's what they want to do. And it's that simple. So even if this episode is able to help them to define that more of what they value and what they're thinking. So yeah, man, I'm digging this episode.
It's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
I love comparisons too, because it's like, this is a neat strategy. That's a neat strategy. I'd like to kind of use them both.
Right.
And again, situational. There will be situations where one person's business is like, this is how I run it. This is what works. Cool. Keep doing it. If it works, do more of that.
Right.
If you're like, well, it works, but I wish it worked better. Ooh, there's the perfect opportunity to experiment.
That's right. That's good stuff.
Well, signing off on this Monday. We'll reconvene again next Monday and see what other critical thinking thoughts we can think.
Critically.
All right. Great to see you, and thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Oh, wait, before we go, if you want to get some more of this type of confidence building strategies and communication all wrapped into an ideal client, head on over to Join Monty. There we go. Join Monty. Woo!
There it is.
Again, the tech.
Nice. You're
all
doing it.
Windows and overlays and fun stuff. There we go. Head on over to joinmonty.com and join the Facebook group. That's where Carl and I are going to be putting more and more of these strategies to help you feel more confident and communicate on a higher level, deeper level, more impactful level.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Enough of that. See you guys later.
Have a great week, everyone.